and welcome to the Spiritual and Empowerment Living with Tia podcast, a sacred place and resource for spiritually centered women who want to go from the mundane to the magical life, for overcoming fear and doubt, reconnecting with the goddess, understanding messages from spirit, and uncovering your spiritual gifts so you can finally live the life you deserve.
Hello, Spiritual Trailblazer, and welcome back. I hope you were able to receive some form of insight and benefit from my last episode, especially during this time, anytime actually, especially dealing with exhaustion. So if you haven't listened to that, please go back and carve out some time for you to really just soak it all in and see how that applies to you, and then get proactive with it, because I don't want you to be in a state of mental exhaustion for long. It's not a good place to be. This episode, we are going to be diving into Goddess Hekate, and I'm so excited. We talked about her before in a previous episode, which was also very insightful. And that was episode 260, Power Moves, the New Moon, Goddess Hekate, and You. So you can definitely go check that out as well. For this episode, I wanted to bring in Goddess Hekate because, well, one, I've been working with her for a while, but recently I've really been diving into her material, meditation with her, just really immersing myself. And what I have learned is that there are aspects of ourselves and our environment that we really need to not just look in, but look past and understand, because when we look at it from afar or at a glance, it could be scary, something we're just not ready to deal with, but it's there. We need to understand it. We need to deal with it. As a result, or one of the results, I should say, is that we are piecing ourselves back together. Please believe, if you have been along this spiritual journey, even if you're new to this podcast, new to spirituality, there are aspects of you that you have either lost along the way, or aspects of you that you have yet to unravel, unveil, etc. So we're going to work with Hekate with that, because she is the one that will help you with this. She has many titles. So this episode, Queen of Witches, Goddess Hekate, putting it back together. And it means a lot. You, your thoughts, your environment, many things. And I was actually going back and forth with that title, whether I should say putting yourself back together, but I just received the message to make it, because it is an umbrella term, umbrella word, if you will, for this episode. And like I just mentioned, a lot falls under it: you, your environment, your thoughts, etc. So before we dive into this, I want to just give you a little bit of a background. So when this goes live, it will be August 12th, but August 13th is Hecate's Day. That's why I wanted to do this episode on this day. I was going to talk about Hekate and putting it back together anyway, but since tomorrow is her day, I decided to shuffle around a couple of episodes and have this go live today. Now, we just passed the full moon. Okay, that was August 3rd. All right, not that long ago. Then we had the Lion's Gate portal on the 8th. Okay, that was pretty interesting. I felt some energies leading up to that. I didn't know it was a Lion's Gate portal. I just felt elated. It was just a different type of energy. I was feeling more loving energy. And when I went on Instagram, I saw it was this Lion's portal. I'm like, oh, what is this Lion's Gate portal? What is all this? So if you don't know what that is, I'll cut down on the time with that. Just go to my Instagram page, Tia_Johnson_. I have a post up there. There's a picture of a lion. You can't miss it. And there's information there. And of course, you can always go #Lionsgate portal and get all the information there. And we also have a new moon coming up on Tuesday, the 18th. Okay. And Hekate, one of her symbols is the new moon. Okay. So this is a very important time. We have a lot of energies going on here. Okay. So if you're feeling a little out of sorts, or maybe you feel a little bit elated, however it is, whatever you're experiencing, if it's different than the norm, this is why. There are a lot of energies going on, a little bit more than usual. And because we are tapped in, we are feeling it. And even if I should take that back. Because we are tapped in, we're feeling it more. Some people who aren't tapped in, but they have that knack, is something in them that still is connected in certain ways. They're feeling it, but they don't know why. So you have that dynamic, okay? And I mean people who are not really into spirituality, but they still feel the effects, like when it's a full moon or when there's solar flares. We all feel these, feel the effects of it. So when you know more about it, then you understand what you're feeling. So us who are tapped in and we know, or we're tapped in and we know to look, we feel a little bit more. And I want you to know that because you're not crazy, okay? You're not having some hormonal thing going on that gets brushed off by society, okay? It's energies that are happening. It's real, and that's what's going down, okay? Even now on the 12th, we have the waning crescent, and that's leading up to the new moon, all right? So we had that changing of energies, all right? Keep all that in mind every day, okay? So whenever you're feeling out of sorts, check in with yourself, download the Deluxe Moon app that lets you know exactly what's going on, moon phase-wise, in connection with the zodiac sign. It is the best app, in my opinion, to help you understand astrology in relation to the changing of the moon phases and the zodiac sign and other things. It's really in depth. So anyway, Goddess Hekate, again, many names. She is here to help us piece things together, okay? And it is because of that we can move on to our greatness. And just to give you an insight on her many titles, because again, multi-faceted, dynamic goddess, woman, just like we are, very dynamic, multifaceted. All right. Let's see here. I'm just skipping down just like 2.5 pages. And I'll tell you the book that I'm looking at in a minute. 2.5 pages here. Huntress, Holy Creatrix, Goddess of Fate, Goddess of the Crossroads, of the Path, of the Sea, of the Three Roads. We're going to talk about the Three Roads, of the Fairy, of Ghosts and Shadows, of the Dead, Mistress of Magic, Mistress of the Dead, Mistress of the Sea, Moon Goddess, Mother of Angels, Mother of Dragons, Mother of Phantoms, Lady of Bones, which is why we're talking about this. I'll dive into that in a minute. Lady of Storms, Dark Muse, Dark Queen, Dark Mother, Dark Maiden, Dame Fate, Daemonstress of Sorcery, and Daemon means spirit. That's Daemon, spirit. And dark, by dark, they mean the night. Okay, so not like, oh, bad, evil. Serpent Queen, the Distant One, Torchbearer, Torch-bearing, Holy Daughter of the Night, Witch Mother. All right, and the list goes on. I'm telling you that because, especially as women, I know mostly women listen to this podcast, we have many titles. Okay. I was just talking about this with several women actually over the last week. We can be prim and proper. We can be wild, untamed. We can be mellow. We can be nurturing. We can be raw and real. Okay. We can be delicate and we can be strong. It's endless. Okay. And it varies from day to day, week to week. All right. You do not have to be one aspect of yourself 100% of the time. All right. Now, you may be more of that aspect more of the time, but please do not let that old way of thinking that prim and proper and being a good girl is the way to go 100% of the time. You may not want to be a good girl at all. First of all, you're a woman. All right. Let's just put that out there. I hate when women are being addressed as girls. And the power lies within you. All right. I'm all for the bad, unfiltered, unapologetic woman. Okay. And unfiltered does not mean that, you're rude and, you say what you want in front of kids and stuff like that. But unfiltered means that you know what you want and you're not afraid to speak up on it. You're not afraid to speak out on things. You're not afraid to stand your ground. Okay. You get it. All right. And you are the voice of others. Okay. So be all that and some. Now, the bone part, this is where it comes together. When we meet Hecate, and at some point, most of us will, especially if you're into witchcraft, it will be a crossroads. And at this point in time, you have to make the decision of whether or not you're going to put yourself back together. And part of the bone collector, is putting yourself back together. All right. So like our skeleton, right? It's pieces of ourselves that get lost over the years that, is just something that we need to really address. In this process, we have to also look at how we want to carry ourselves going forward. All right. So crossroads, whenever I get a vision of crossroads, it's always three paths. Right. And Hecate, and I'll give you background on Hecate in a minute. Hecate, she's known as also triple moon goddess. So she has three heads, or like three aspects of the triple moon are represented by the heads. And the dogs that are with her also have three heads. And so when I get a vision of the path, there's always three paths. Now, back to the bones. This is a time where you have to call it. It's either you're going to live a life where you're going to go for what's best for you and understanding that you're going to have to live an unfiltered life. You got to show up as yourself 100%. Now, will that be uncomfortable at times? It could be, depending on who you're around. Sometimes people won't accept that. And then you have to go off and, create a new family. I'm not going to lie to you. I have seen this before where people have not gotten along with their family and they moved, okay, and start a new life. Some people, their family accepts them for who they are. They may not understand it 100%, but they support them and they can thrive in that environment. The key here is that when people show you or tell you who they are, please believe them. Don't make excuses. If anything that was some sort of, I don't want to say relief. That was like a aha, like a okay moment. I would say like a oh, okay, like that moment is that people have been showing their true selves. If anything this year has done is to reveal how people truly think and feel on a number of topics. Okay. Now, I did not say what they did not know. Okay. There's some people who just really are not aware. They don't know and they are learning. I'm not talking about that. And I want to make that clear because I'm not saying that you listeners do that, my spiritual family, but I have seen this in certain Facebook groups where people misconstrue words. So I just want to make this abundantly clear. Just really for me, is that people will show you their true colors. You need to believe that. No more giving passes. And people who want to get educated and understand, bravo, embrace them. Don't shut them down. I've seen that too, where people ask questions and they get yelled at and all this other stuff. Okay, so this is about you when you're piecing yourself back together, and we're going to talk about what that looks like. Some ways, it looks like when you're piecing yourself back together. Part of this is understanding who's in your environment. And I know I talked about this before in various episodes, but it's getting realer here. If it got real before, it's going to get realer because you're going to dive into the shadow aspect. All right, so let's talk about these three paths. These three paths can represent a lot of things. I'll give you an example. When I used to do readings on this podcast many years ago, people would ask me, a question, what do you see? Or I need some insight. A lot of times I would see paths for them, only to a certain point, and then it'd be clouds because it's not my vision to see at that point. It's just a little bit of guidance and that's it. It's not for my eyes. And sometimes the path would be path number one, which is directly in front of you. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you got, right? And good or bad. I mean, you could be on a decent path and it could be a safe path and you're comfortable, like that's what you want. You don't want any excitement. I will not judge. It's not for me to say, hey, you're not really challenging yourself in life. Now, if you come to me and ask me, why isn't this working in my life? What's going on? Then I'm going to tell you, you're not challenging yourself. You're in a comfortable zone and you get out of that. But if you're asking me, hey, what do you see about this situation? And I'll say, well, you took the comfortable route. And if that's what you want to continue to do, you're going to continue to receive X, Y, Z. Now, path number two, which would be to your left, that's a change that you make. Now, this change could be a temporary change, and you could revert back to what you're doing. It could be a temporary change that leads to something different. It's a little bit varied, but it's a change that you had to make, long or short term. And then you'll come across another set of paths. And then the third path is really the unknown creation path. And this is the path where you take the side step. This is where you start to create your reality. You start to transform because you're diving into shadow work. And I don't want you to be afraid of the words shadow work, okay? This just means that you acknowledge it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows and, rosé all day, as nice as that sounds. But what you're acknowledging is that you're not perfect. No one's perfect. There are aspects of you that you need to address that maybe you put on a back burner because you weren't ready to face it, or maybe it's traumatic and you need to see a therapist to address it. It can also mean just aspects of you that you haven't found yet, something that's within you. It could be courage. It could be the ability to love, the ability to be vulnerable, the capacity to travel. Who knows? It's up to you to discover. But that's shadow work in a nutshell. This is where goddess Hekate comes in because she is the light bearer right? So she has her torches, and she's at that crossroad, that point where you can pick 1, 2, or 3, okay? And she's going to direct you, right? As she's not there to say, oh, that's right or wrong. It's just like when we use magic. It's not bad or good. It's how we use it. Okay, so she's just like, look, you got these choices. If you want to piece yourself back together, I'm here to help you with that. If you go that way, hey, that's your choice. Just expect to receive certain things. All right, so what does it look like to piece yourself or something back together? This could mean several things. One, it could mean that you're looking in your refrigerator and you say to yourself, you know what? I'm eating all this shitty food. It's junk. I'm tossing it out. I'm going to do research to find out what foods are good for me, or I'm going to go to a dietitian, someone who's an expert in the area of figuring out what foods I should eat per whatever. Get your blood work done, see what's going on with you, check out your family history, really get that going, okay? It could mean that, you know what, you start speaking up for yourself. You start reclaiming your power. You start calling out people on their bullshit, all right? You start to really be that voice for yourself, first and foremost, before anyone else. You just start to say, you know what, this isn't going to work. Like, I gave you so many passes in the past, and now I'm just tired of it. I'm tired. Okay? I don't know what else you want from me. I allow a lot of things to slide because I value your love, your friendship, but in all honesty, was it really love? Was it really a friendship? This isn't how you treat people. I don't have to take this. It can mean that you just feel like it's time for you to move. And I'm not saying any of this is easy. Okay, please don't mistake that. Some cases may be a little bit easier than others, like throwing out junk food and buying good food at the market. That's a little bit easier to do, right? Especially if you have a health condition. You get your blood work done and it's just like, ooh, blood pressure issue, or diabetes, whatever the case may be. Now, when it comes to friendship, loved ones, you may be living with them. So what you got to do, you got to create your own space in the household. Your own space can mean you spending extra time in the bathroom where you're in the shower a little bit longer. It can mean you going for a walk because maybe you just got to get out the house. Maybe you just be in your bedroom a little bit longer, right? You got to get resourceful and creative until you get to a point where you can be around certain people because you have to, but it doesn't faze you, right? Because you built that armor. It can also look like you doing the very things that you stopped doing: reading, writing, dancing, singing, learning a new language. Maybe you were doing it before and you put it down. Maybe someone told you something was stupid and you stopped doing it because you thought it was stupid because you valued their opinion. Come to find out, they're not doing much either, or they were just jealous. Okay? It shows up in different ways for different people. Now, let's go to the History of Hecate. Right, so this is from Which Way magazine, and it's an e-magazine, so electronic magazine subscription service I get every month. I've been subscribed to them for years now. So if you scroll towards the end of the magazine, it talks about Goddess Hekate. So I'm just going to read you briefly about who she is. Again, please take out some time to go look her up. There are a couple of ways you can spell her name: Hekate, which is the Greek version, and Hec, C as in cat, Ate is the Roman version. So Hecate is a Greek titaness, a primordial goddess older than time. She has one of the few titans, or excuse me, she was one of the few titans who retained her honors and powers after Zeus and the Olympians overthrew Kronos. All right. So she's one powerful son of a gun. Again, quick history. So to work with her, you can do offerings, and also keep in mind, because you're going to see this a lot when you're working with goddesses and other divine beings, is to leave offerings. If you're thinking, or saying to yourself, Tia, man, I don't have it right now, set that intention. All right. Part of communicating with the goddesses is like communicating with your girlfriend who you known for a very long time. Okay. So when your good girlfriend comes over, you would usually have wine ready, some cheese, prosciutto, something like that. Sometimes you're going through something and she just comes over, right? And she's bringing a wine and prosciutto and cheese, okay? So look at it like that. It's a trying time. You don't have these offerings, but you still want to connect until you can build up to a point where you can have these offerings. So again, think of it like that. Don't let this stop you from doing your research on Hecate. Remember, our ancient ancestors started off with, nothing. They were looking at the stars and stuff, okay? Cakes, fruit, milk, eggs, cheese, okay? Those are some of the foods that you can have set on a table. Libations, beer, wine, juice, herbs, rose, garlic salt, oak leaves, sage, frankincense, lavender. Objects, keys, stones like obsidian, jasper, and quartz, bones, seashells. Okay, these are some of the things you can have on an altar when you're meditating to connect with Hecate. Of course, when you meditate during the new moon with her, that's just a bonus. Okay. And in this magazine, there is an evocation that you can say to connect with Hecate. So it's very in depth, which I love. Okay. She is a very enormous presence. When you connect with Hecate, you just know. That's what I would say about that. So yeah, make your way to Which Way magazine. Of course, you can Google a lot of information, but it's nice when people put it precisely for you. Now, these two books, I will put the titles of the two books in the description for this podcast episode. All right. One is Pagan Portals, Hecate, a Devotional. And this is by Vivienne Moss. And then the other one I'm reading is Keeping Her Keys, An Introduction to Hecate's Modern Witchcraft by Cyndi Brannen. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Again, I'll post the titles in the description for this episode. And you know what? The day this episode goes live, I'll post pictures of the book on my Instagram page. So Tia_Johnson_. All right. So how is it that we come across Hecate? A lot of times there's something that happens, right? It's like something that causes a chain reaction. What I have noticed over the years, I'm not just speaking for myself, just people who I have worked with, talked to, etc., is that there's usually something that happens that leads us a certain way. For example, when I first started working with goddesses, Hecate was not on my radar. All right, it was goddess Bridget, Freya, Isis, okay, and then it worked up to Lilith, Kali, but Hecate is a little bit more recent, like about a year or so. And what it is when there's a disruption, when there's something that happens on a large scale, people step up to the plate, right? When something happens in our lives that just shift things, we notice some people step up. Sometimes people who we least expect to step up. That's sort of like what it is with Hecate. There comes a time where something happens in our lives, whether you lose a job, loss of a loved one, something happens to us, and we're just like, where the hell am I right now in my life? Like, what's going on? We had that existential crisis, I guess, so to speak. Something happens that triggers us to have to make certain decisions about where we're going in our lives. And I'm not just talking about graduating college or graduating high school. That's more of a natural life progression. What I'm talking about here is the decision to do shadow work, create the life that we truly want, take 100% responsibility in our lives. Doesn't mean that we're not going to get hit with what I call life, when something unfortunate happens. It just means that we are looking for solutions, or we realize that, hey, now is the time to retreat. Okay. We know how to handle a lot of things. And if we don't, we get resourceful. Okay. That's what I'm talking about here. We realize this can't continue. And because of that, a disruption happens. And when disruption happens, there's going to be some fists going, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to break down and got to be rebuilt. And a lot of times that breakdown is the old version of us, and the building is the new version of us, or our new environment, our new life. And that means we got to leave some things behind, hands down. Okay. So look at what's disruptive. We can look at 2020 itself as being disruptive, and how we're going to proceed with this. I'm going to tell you something. Whenever something pops up in my life and I'm just like, oh, geez, come on, I really don't feel like this, I attack it. Like, I get over that quickly. I have my moment. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm not in the mood for this. But then I attack it. Okay. And so what I'm saying here is that what's going on in your life that you're just like, ah, shit. But then you got to attack it. Hecate, goddess Hecate, is a no-nonsense goddess. Okay. If you truly want to change your life and be transformative in your approach, she's the one. If you're into witchcraft, she's the one. All right. If you're looking into, like really dealing with your shit, like really looking at your shadow side, you got to. Honestly, for growth, it's not pretty, but you got to. She's the woman. All right. She will always have your back. And I'm going to use myself as an example. One thing that I didn't want to dive too much into in my life really was being vulnerable. I just felt like I had to just have this exterior, that was just titanium. I didn't really like showing my feelings. Unless you were a dog or a kid, I really don't want to get close to you like that, like, let's not. That didn't mean I wasn't nice to people, that I didn't have friends, but there's always, as anything else, layers to things. You have your friends, you have your close friends, you have your best friends, and what I learned over the years is that you have to be you, and you can't expect people to be who you want them to be because you're doing something for them. Whether it's you just being you or you doing a nice favor. Now, with that being said, I do expect some kindness, some reciprocation, but it's to the degree of which I was expecting it. Okay. I was expecting too much from the wrong people. Okay. So I had to look at that. Right. I had to look at that. And when I did, things got better. It really did. So now I'm vulnerable in front of the right people. Right. Some people see certain sides of me that no one else will ever see. And it's not that I'm trying to hide something. It's just that you can only let your guard down 100% around very few people. That's life. That's how it is. Some people will try to use that against you. Some people, will try to take advantage of that. So there's very few people who you can be 100% vulnerable with. That's just how it is. And how did that look, right? Because I'm always talking about how did that look? How did that look? It started with, and I had her on a show before, my best friend, she was slowly opening up, and she said it herself. She wasn't a vulnerable person like that, but I was there for her and I listened. That's one of my gifts. If I were to say I had any kind of magic powers, one would be the gift of listening without judging people. Actually, my little joke is I will judge you on the food that you cook. If your food is terrible and you invite me over for dinner, I will judge you heavily and I probably will not be your friend after that. Okay, but it took some time to just, listen and be supportive when someone's going through something. And then when I'm going through something, so it's just about showing up and being present, not really saying anything sometimes, if that makes sense. Another example is, when you got to look at how you want to, how you want your life to be in the next 5 years, right? So investing, saving, finances, really looking at that, right? We all have a timeline, right? Some people like myself, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire by, this day. So you got to get real with yourself. So me putting it back together, looking at that shadow aspect is looking at what doesn't work. Am I sinking cost here? Am I not paying attention to my money there, right? And I know that people do that. I was just talking to someone today about this. You got a lot of subscription services, some that you're not really taking advantage of. Take your power back by taking your money back. Invest. Talk to people, fiduciary. Start saving a little bit of money, then make your money work for you. Money is energy, is not just evil thing. Not that I ever looked at money as evil, but I looked at it as something that I had to work really, 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 really hard to get. And once you get it, it's always going to be out the door because of something. So I had to check my thought process and learn the shadow work behind it, which is it was a generational thing where my grandmother got divorced from her husband, not my papa that I talk about, but her first husband. And so, yeah, her first husband, who is my mom and uncle's husband. And her second, not that he was her husband, but it's like a common law marriage in Pennsylvania and something like that. My papa, who I talk about, that's who she eventually dated after my grandfather, the parent of my mom and uncles. She divorced him. She was dating a guy who they had a shared bank account. And he took the money from them. He cleared out the bank account and left. Okay. And so my grandmother had to figure out a lot of things. She trusted this guy. They had a bank account together. Oh my gosh. They had a place. So my grandmother told my mom, which is true, there's nothing like your own bricks, she would say. So that means get your own house, have your own money, keep separate bank accounts, which is what we're taught today in schools, right? In some schools, have different bank accounts, have ownership, right? So then my mom comes along and she has the same thing, all these things. And I'm coming along and I'm like scared to death to part with my money. But at the same time, my money's going every which way, just kind of unchecked. So I had to tap into that shadow aspect, which is generational, right? It's okay to do that. It's okay to admit that. It's okay to talk about it. Because again, there's nothing wrong with having your own bricks, own your own things. But we got to watch the side effects of doing it. I was afraid to part with money. Okay. I used to have a lot of credit card debt when I was in college because I just wanted to spend money. I didn't want to pay anything back. I was terrified. Like, what if I need this money? What if I gotta, okay. I had to dive into the shadow aspect. I had to look at money and develop a relationship with money. Now I'm in a much better place. So that's what I'm telling you. And I'm not giving you these examples just to show you like, oh, look at me, I'm doing this. It's more to show you, hey, I was on a very similar path. And even if your shadow side is different than mine, we still had to dive into that shadow aspect. And that's why Hecate is there with her lights, her torches. Okay. So this isn't a beat yourself up session. This is a life disruption. Time to start calling a spade, and it's time to get real with ourselves. And when we do that, the other side of that, piecing ourselves back together, putting our bones back together, mending ourselves, is that we live a very vivid, magical world. Life in HD. Okay. We recognize signs. I've been seeing numbers all day and yesterday. 777, 444, 88, 88. Like, it's been crazy. But I get it. When I see those numbers, I understand what's going on. Okay. When I see certain patterns, for example, if you see, say you are trying, say you want to attract romantic love, and all you see are pictures of people getting engaged and people like, oh, we're drinking our glass of wine, stuff like that. That means that you're attracting that in your life. You are literally in that vibe frequency, right? You want to manifest that. You're mending yourself back together. You're attacking your shadow side. You are fixing that, bringing that into the light. Now that you are on that path of recovery, you can bring in that goodness. Because how can you ever move on if you can't get past square one? And square one is your shadow side. I just need to take a deep breath. Goddess Hecate is here for you. I can't stress that enough. She shows up differently for different people. Okay. I mean, I'm reading 2 books and looking at this e-magazine, and they each have their own experience. Each author is explaining how Hecate showed up for them. She showed up for me in a dream, which is reasonable considering she is, part of the night theme, messenger, via dreams. And I had to go through a battle in my dream. Okay. Like a stone cold battle. And then the dream transformed where I saw this, like a cover of a magazine that said sovereignty goddess. And I'm like doing research, trying to understand, like, who's the sovereignty goddess? Looking this up. And here I am reading this book, and it pops up Hecate and one of her many names and associations. Another goddess popped up, the Morrigan. I believe I pronounced that right. But when I read this book, I got that chill, because the wording in, I'm talking about the Hecate Devotional, coincided with my dream. And I had the dream before I read the book. So that speaks volumes. Okay. So just be conscious of that. When people try to underhand you, like be condescending, it's not necessarily a test. I know some spiritual people like to say, oh, it's a test. Some people are just assholes, period. Okay. There's a difference between having a dream where you're battling something and you win the battle and you see this transformation happen, than someone just undermining you. And we need to know the difference. Now, this is looking at the person. Sometimes people are genuinely curious and they want to understand. And sometimes people are just being assholes. So if you want to keep this to yourself, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being on this journey. Actually, you should be, to some extent, spending some time by yourself, putting your bones back together. So if you want to light a candle, focus on that flame, do it. Make sure you have a pad next to you and a pen and write about it when you're done the meditation. Trust me, you're not going to forget, all right? Because this is something that you need to remember. So it will come to you, all right? I want to wrap this up by saying we all have free will. We all have our choices. Okay. Goddess Hekate will never steer you on the wrong path. It may be uncomfortable. It may even be a little bit scary because, let's face it, it's going to be nighttime, or the theme is going to be nighttime when you meditate. It's not going to be on the beach. You know what? Even if it is on the beach, it's going to be nighttime on the beach. But what I'm saying here is you are diving into the depths of you. Some people don't want to have real and raw conversations about who they are and who they want to be. And that leads to illness. We have seen this. Scientists have now proved it. When you don't speak up for yourself, when you don't be yourself, you develop illnesses. It shows up in the body. Think about it. When you're mad, you're upset, and you want to cry, but you don't, what hurts? What hurts? I'm going to tell you, your throat and your chest, because you're not what? Vocalizing it. You're not saying what's on your mind. You're trying to hold back an emotion. That hurts. Now imagine you holding in that cry, that hurt, that anger for years. What do you think your body's going to do? So don't be afraid to have these real and raw conversations with yourself. I have them with myself often. What do I really want in life? Who do I want to be with? Who do I want to surround myself with? What do I want to accomplish? What do I want my environment to look like? And you don't have to put up with people who aren't aligned with you. And by aligned, I do not mean agree with you 100%. I have friends who are of different religions. They are of different backgrounds, okay, different economic levels, okay, but they know how to treat people. We can agree sometimes, and sometimes we don't agree. Different political parties, okay, but we understand the right of human decency to respect people, to have empathy. We get that. When we go out in public, we're like the United Nations. People can't believe this. I can't believe how people can't believe that. Like it's 2020 or it was 2019, 2018. And people are just like, wow, you guys know each other? They're trying to piece it together because we're so diverse. But I get confused when I see people who don't have diversity in their pictures that they post. How is it that you're still surrounded by people who look like you all the time? That just baffles my mind. So we have to get real with ourselves here. What are we doing? What are we not doing? And again, I'm not saying people around you have to agree with you 100%. I wouldn't want that anyway. Sometimes my friends have better ideas. Okay? It'd be really corny if everyone agreed with me. I mean, plus I overthink. Nothing would get done. But what I'm saying here is you got to have these real and raw conversations with yourself. Invite Hecate into the mix. Invite her and be patient. She may not show up day one. She may not show up day two. She may show up on a new moon next week. Okay? But you have to be willing to fight for what you want. It's not going to come easy. No one's going to come save you. And this is another conversation I was having with someone. You know, we get to a certain point and we feel like, oh, you know what, maybe I can relax a little bit and, you know, something will happen. Not necessarily a person will show up, but something will happen. oh, let me play this lottery and I win the lottery. Something will happen. Far few and in between that something happens, that person comes along, but no one's coming for you. No one's coming to put you on a horse and, make the horse carry off into the sunset. You have to get up and get on a horse. You have to get up and go through that forest or whatever it is mentally what it looks like for you. Everyone's mind looks different. Okay. And the best way I can describe it is, I believe was the movie Inception, where Leonardo DiCaprio is going in people's minds to get information, and each person has a different landscape of their mind. And the one guy has like a Sigma team, Army tactical gear with his mind, and the guy goes, "What the heck? This is supposed to be easy." And Leonardo goes, "Well, he's the founder of like blah 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 security." So of course his mind is more of the tactical fight. So what I'm saying is, your mind might be a magical forest and you're just navigating through that. Someone else's mind may be a tower. Someone else's mind may be wooded area. Everyone's mind is just different. Okay. So when you're diving into your shadow work and you're asking Hecate to be that light bearer, holding the torches, that's one of her symbols, holding torches. Be aware. What are you seeing with your mind's eye? What are you feeling? What do you hear? You might hear the ocean. You might feel like you have sand on you, something like that. What is that? Okay. Because that's important. And it's important because once you know the landscape, you can navigate it. Right? You can navigate it. And you can connect on a deeper level with that. So, for example, if you're more connected with the beach and you feel like your mind is a combination of the beach and the ocean and all that, maybe you need to do something where you purchase sounds of the ocean to help you calm your nerves, to help you take a few steps back to figure out what you need to do, something like that. Now, if you're more of a forest type of, landscape, then maybe you need to go to a forest. Or maybe you just need to go somewhere where the trees are big, the old big trees. Okay. This is about diving into you. This is about you getting really raw about what you want. I mean, bare bones. Okay. Goddess Hecate is here to put the bones back together, but we got to look at what's there and what's not there. What's real for you? Maybe you've been trying to put on this lifestyle for your family because you want to make them proud. You really want to make them proud, but it's not you. And maybe when you come out, they actually say, you know what, we're actually proud of you, or we didn't know that's how you felt. We just wanted the best for you. Sometimes it's just miscommunication. So I'm going to actually wrap this up. I know I said I was going to wrap this up, but then the whole mind landscape came to my mind and vision, and I was urged to tell you about the landscape of your mind. And maybe I'll make that a complete episode. Let me know what you think about that. So, Goddess Hecate, Queen of Witches, Queen of the Shadows, Mistress of the Night. So many things. You can connect with her on many levels to piece back whatever it needs to be put together, but in a new way. We're not piecing together the old. All right, we burnt that down to the ground. That is done. That is ashes to ashes, dust to dust. This is the new you, the new life, the new environment, right? This is the beginning of the new, next level stuff. So, ask her for guidance, connect with her. I gave you some ways that you can have that communication going, whether it's the herbs or the libation, the food, the objects. Okay, it all starts with one or a couple of things. You can build your way up. There are candles that are made in honor of Hecate, like I think it was like elderberry or something like that mixed, and it smells like really earthy and good. Okay, so get into that. I can't stress this enough. The best thing you can do is learn more about yourself and what you truly want, and not apologize for it. Okay, and understand what you've been avoiding. We can't do this anymore. We can't give people passes. We can't give ourselves passes. We have to open this wide up and approach the issues one by one. And if you can handle 2 issues at the same time, God bless you. Goddess bless you. Carry on. But start somewhere, stick to it, see it to the end, learn from it, give back by teaching someone else, and then move on to the next issue. That's what I did on multiple levels. Okay. And you can go back to previous podcasts where I told you about my transformations, about how I had to overcome thought processes. Okay. Lots. You can even scroll down to my old pictures on Instagram or my old videos on YouTube. One thing you will see is that I kept pushing. When my teeth weren't fixed and they were crooked, I still did videos. Okay, I had braces on my teeth as an adult. I still did videos on YouTube. I didn't let it stop me, but I wasn't fully acknowledging the issue. Okay, that's the path I'm talking about. I could stick on that path where my teeth weren't straight, and it's not the best for, my overall health. By the time I went to the orthodontist, he said another couple of years, your teeth would have started to crack, which means I had to get dentures, et cetera. So I could have stayed on that path where I'm thinking, well, I'm making YouTube videos. What's the problem? I'm getting my word out there. Yeah, but you got to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is it's slurring your speech a little bit. So it's not just the Philly accent all the time, okay? It's not as presentable as you could be. There's a potential to do better. And also your overall dental health, right? So I can stick on that path where I'm creating videos. And if I did stick on that path where I just thought, oh, well, who cares about, teeth? It's about the message, which is true to some extent. But again, we're going deeper here. I could have stayed on that path. And by this time, which is 5 years later, my teeth would have been cracking and I would have to have dentures. And that costs more money in the long run than the dental work I had done. All right. You got to stick with that. You got to get the whole, like the potty grip and all that. Right. So that's what I mean about these paths. Okay. Not saying that it's the worst path to be on. Like I said, you want to play the comfortable route. No judgment. That's what you want to do with your life, but expect some things to happen. Now, or I could have lane number 2, the left lane, made some changes, and maybe it would have been long-term or short-term. What could have been a change? Maybe not do YouTube videos anymore, right? Like, oh, you know what? I don't really want to pay attention to my dental health. I'll just podcast. Okay, I'll just write. Or I won't do anything at all. Okay. That's a temporary solution. Okay. All right. Or 3, I go get my braces. I take care of my dental health and I create a different world which is partially unknown. I picked number 3, which made me be more confident in speaking, which made me speak more, which I wasn't planning to do. All right. My initial plan was to just write and do a couple of video workshops, stuff like that. All right. Made me more confident, made me speak up more. I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't expect to gain more confidence by having straight teeth. I just expected to be able to brush my teeth right, for once without struggling and, not worried about any teeth getting cracked. Who knew confidence would be a thing, right? I never really had an issue like that, like, oh no, it was confidence. I was self-conscious a little bit about smiling, but it didn't stop me from creating videos. See what I'm saying? So the confidence is the thing that soared. Okay. So I'll leave you with that. This is my 3rd time saying that, but I keep getting these notions to carry on. I'll leave you with that. focus on the paths you want to take. There are 3 paths. And you might say, wait a minute, Tia, what about another path? Knock yourself out. When I get these visions, it's always 3 paths. All right. Start taking note of dates, full moon, new moon. You could do the waxing and the waning if you want, to help you if you want to go deeper. And of course, there's more ways to go deeper. But start knowing the phases of the moon, because we are impacted by that. If you want to understand why you feel one way on this date and one way another day, start getting to know the phases of the moon. And you can go deeper, understand solar flares and eclipses and all that. But just start with phases of the moon. If nothing else, start with full moon and new moon, if nothing else. Okay. Start following people on Instagram who provide information about various things. My Instagram page is more goddess centered, some witch information. So I get my information about the moon and other things from different pages, and there's nothing wrong with that. So have a diverse group of people who you follow so you get different information. And don't be afraid to be you. Don't be afraid to dive into who you are, who you're truly meant to be. You were not born to just be some Joe Schmo who just X his way through life, okay? Who just like, I'm here. This world has so much to give, and there's so much that needs to be done, especially those of you who listen to this podcast and you're already in your 30s. You've seen a lot. 40s, I know you've seen a lot. 50s, you have seen a lot, okay? I'm not knocking the 20-year-olds and you know, the late teens. What I'm saying is the older you get, the more you will see over your lifetime. And you have seen many advances of humanity, all right? I mean, look at the internet. Look at our cell phones, okay? I was around when there wasn't cell phones, all right? Then I was around when we had that big old block phone. We had to pull the antenna out, all right? So think about that. Think about the advancements and think about how you can contribute in your way, all right? And, you know, last but not least, connect with Goddess Hekate. She is the light bearer. All right. She will be holding her torches for you. She will meditate beside you. She will work with you, but you have to be willing to do the work. She is no nonsense. Do not give up on her. She will not give up on you. Do not give up on yourself. And just because it gets a little bit hard, a little bit uncomfortable, does not mean you should give up. If you need to take a break, think of it like exercise. You're doing 15 crunches, that's 16 crunches, like, take a 3-second break, take a 5-second break to catch your breath and get right back to it. Because you're in it to win for you. You have to do this for you. And once you do it for you, you got to pass the baton. You got to do it for someone else, because you have to be that voice for someone else. You have to be. Someone was the voice for me. I'm the voice for you. You're the voice for someone else. And guess what? You might be the voice for me. There may be a day where you reach out to me and say, hey, Tia, I learned about blah, 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 and I would love to be in your podcast and talk about it. And I'll say, okay. And I'll say, okay. And now I'm learning from you. Okay? So please, you have to be yourself. I need you, and the world needs you. Some little girl, some woman, someone needs you to be you. Because whether we like it or not, someone is looking for permission to do something. They really are. Sometimes it's subconscious because of outdated systems of thinking. And sometimes because they're just really nervous. Saying you're a witch, saying you're into connecting with goddesses, saying you want to live an unapologetic life, saying you're claiming 100% of your life. Oh yeah, that's going to put some people off. Oh yeah, for sure. That's going to put you off a little bit, like, what am I getting into? But you're only going to be winning. That's it. The end result is you're winning. The end result is when it comes time For you to leave this earth, you leave nothing on the table. You have a legacy that's going on and on and on, and it's helping out people. I don't care if it's in your own town. You might be in Denver, Colorado. I may never meet you, but guess what? The people in Denver need you. The people in Denver need you. Okay? So connect with Goddess Hekate. Let me know how it works out for you. Check out next week's episode. I have a very special guest on, and we're going to dive into some therapies. It's going to be a good one. All right, so take care. I'm rooting for you, sending you many blessings, and don't forget to be kind to yourself.
As always, Spiritual Trailblazer, thank you for tuning in. Do make sure to stop by and visit me at tiamariejohnson.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Last but not least, be kind to yourself. I'm rooting for you, and I'm sending you so many blessings. Until next time.